Yeah, hey everybody, thanks for stopping by the channel here. Just was putting out a new video to show you how the DHCP server works when you add a DHCP server to your environment and how that issues the address, otherwise known as a DHCP DORA, which stands for Discover, Offer, Request, and Acknowledge. And what we're going to do is we're going to create and add this DHCP role to this server, and then after we add our DHCP role, we're going to want to run a Wireshark on this Windows system, and then we're going to capture those packets to see how the DORA request works as far as discovering that IP address within Wireshark. So I'll go ahead and add this feature here, and then we're going to go ahead and go over to our Windows 11 system and check those interfaces on that system. So as this is adding this feature here, I'm going to go over to our Windows 11 system. And then I'm going to illustrate how this works as far as the IP address scheme and start a command prompt here. So as we can see here, we don't have an IP address for this one yet. It's got the non-routable IP for our secondary adapter. So um, this is going to basically get an IP address from our DHCP server once we activate that. So let's go and see if our service has been added to our Windows Server 2022. And as soon as this is complete, we're going to go ahead and create our scope. And then once we create our scope, we can go ahead and activate the DHCP service, at which point we're going to capture our packets in Wireshark to illustrate how that works. So we'll go ahead and let this finish up here. Should be done in a second. Well, while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and get our Wireshark going here. So before I start capturing those packets, let's get back to here. See if it's finished installing the service. So we're just going to go ahead and activate that here and complete the configuration. And use our default lab here, commit that, close that, and now we're going to create our scope here in the DHCP service. Let's see which one we want to use. So we're going to go into our DHCP server, and on the IPv4, we're going to create a new scope. And it doesn't matter what you name this, I'll just name it new IP scope. 192.168.0.95 is going to be our first IP in the scope, and then we're going to do 192.168.0.99 for a total of 5 IPs in our scope with this range here. And we're not going to add any exclusions. We're going to go with the default lease time of 8 days. Let's see if there's anything else we need to add. So we do need to add the gateway address in here. So this is where we're going to add our gateway 192.168. 0.250. Pretty sure that's the gateway that they want us to use here. Let's just double check that. It's down here, right here. Okay, so that's the right gateway. Just have to have that because otherwise it won't work. So we just use the default domain name. No win servers. And we're going to wait to activate the scope. What we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to start our Wireshark capture on the active Ethernet adapter. So once I start this up here, let's go ahead and get this size, increase the size. We're going to activate our scope on our DHCP server with the scope we just created. So I'll go ahead and say yes, activate the scope now, finish. And it should take a second, but once that activates the scope, it should issue those IPs automatically to some machines within our network lab here. So we can see it issued one for this machine, and it looks like it issued it for this machine here, the same one we're on. So this one must have had a secondary adapter as well. So let's check that. Yeah, so this one did have a secondary adapter, so it already issued the adapter IP for that. Let's refresh this again. And now we can see that it issued it for our Windows 11 system over here. Sometimes you might have to do an IP config release renew, but in this case, it automatically issued that IP. So now instead of this non-routable, we're going to see our IP here with the .96. So we've got our valid IP. So what we do now is we stop our Wireshark and then we simply type in DHCP. And then we're going to see all of the addresses over the wire on this network in the lab that were basically issued. So let's apply that filter. All right, so here we have our discover, offer, request, acknowledge that I was mentioning, the DORA. That's where you get the term DORA from, is because essentially over the wire, that's what happens. It discovers and then it offers and then it requests an IP from our DHCP server, and the acknowledgement is the IP address that we get. So in our acknowledgement packet, we can basically see the IP addresses. So this was the one that was issued to our DHCP server, and then this is the one that was the secondary acknowledge is the one that was issued to this system here. And we can validate that by doing the IP config, all like we just did. And then we see our .96, and then we also see the MAC address here, which is part of this as well. So basically, you're going to see the MAC address right here. And then that's basically, you can see the lab that it came from as well in this packet capture. It's going to show this lab name here. So that's where the domain it came from. And then we've got our IP address that we got from the DHCP server. So that's how the DORA request works with DHCP. And I hope you found that valuable, and have a great day. Bye.